Dark craters all over the place.
G'day, how you all going? It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy here with Crank.com and with that metal station. Today I'm getting to have a chat with Sheila Eden of Nepthisis, whose latest album, Spiral Hollow, comes out 21st of January 2022 through Dark Horse Music, and I believe it's a debut album for you, is it?
Yeah, with Nephthis, it sure is. Mm-hmm.
No worries. Thank you for joining me. First off, can you tell me a little bit about how this band, who this band is and how it all started?
So I've been doing music for TV and film for quite a few years, and one of my collaborators from that, can you hear me okay? Okay, just making sure. One of my collaborators from that, we were working on making a totally different type of music together that just felt really untrue. And we were like, what are we doing? And so we decided to join with another guitarist and another instrumentalist who's a multi-instrumentalist, and just started creating things that were much darker lyrically and just in tonality too, really different sounds. So yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah, it does have a really different sound. Can you kind of describe that for someone who kind of hasn't heard this band? Because I got a lot of the old kind of the 90s Portishead and stuff like that, Massive Attack and things like that as well, but also mixed in with a fair bit of the goth as well, you know? Can you, how would you describe it?
It's been really interesting to have people try to describe us, because I think when we started out, we were trying to cross genre so intentionally. So we were trying to pull in like the ambient electronic components of like How to Destroy Angels and Massive Attack, but also some of the vocal stylings of like Massive Attack too, with these big wailing vocal type things. And then we also were really fixated on some of the rock components of, say, like Chelsea Wolfe or Zola Jesus, where they're discussing really heavy themes and there's like this goth discord. So we just it created a lot of really unique, strange sounds, and we just embraced that. So for somebody that had never heard it before, it's very gothic, it's experimental electronic, art rock is how I would describe it. You know, as the days keep going, I keep having more and more people tell me what my music is. So like describing it, and I'm like, okay, let me write that down. And so that's been pretty helpful.
Yeah, it must have been fun creating this project, because you were just saying you were with film and TV, so it must be fun to kind of explore different aspects of your musical styling and preferences there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like my goal was to really make something that inspires a director or a producer that they feel just fits perfectly into their really creepy scene, and they're like, oh, that girl gets me, you know. So there's a very cinematic quality to a lot of what we're doing, and it's intended to take you on a ride, you know. It's not.
Yeah, it definitely does. I've had a chance to listen to this whole album. It's a really great listen. I've been listening to it from start to finish, which is the way I like to digest albums. I'm not just a one-track kind of digital streaming kind of person. I love to listen to whole albums, and there's different aspects in this album. There's even kind of like it feels like at one point there's an electro poppy kind of feel to one of the tracks as well. It's just all these different elements as well. So to get the most out of this album, you really need to play it from start to finish. Is that the way you intended this?
Yeah, it was really intended to be kind of experiential, and we spent a lot of time meticulously selecting and moving around where the different songs were going to be. Like, we want the listener to go on a journey. So it's not just like hit them really hard at the beginning and then soft at the end. It's not like that. It's like very much ups and downs, and like I'm all about helping people to express and find their emotions. And so that was the goal, was to like take the person on this journey and help them to feel things maybe they'd suppressed for a while, feel excitement and joy and like this primal lust thing going on for a while. And then after that, like dropping into like something that feels sad and like intimate and somber. Like just, I remember listening to some albums when I was in college. I think it was Pink Floyd, The Wall, specifically in the middle of a winter storm, and listening to it in totality, and it just like becomes you. And that was the goal. It was like to make people just feel consumed for a while.
Yeah, and that album, Pink Floyd, The Wall, that does go on a story. So that must have really made a big experience on you. It's almost like a film through music as well when you listen to that whole album. And that must have really probably had a big impact on you going on to film and everything else as well. How did this journey start for you then? Like, when did you first get into singing, and when were you like, okay, then I want to turn this into a career and a profession? Tell us a little bit about your journey and how this started.
I mean, I've always sang. I was a musical theater brat, and then I went to college and studied opera, and then I stopped singing for quite some time. I was doing totally unrelated work, and then it just wasn't working for me to disregard that. But I was working in film. So I work in film as well, like on the crew side, or I have in the past. And I was like, how can I integrate my worlds? This is not what I dreamed. You know, I dreamed of sharing my music and really impacting people. And so I came to understand that there was a huge need for what's called sync licensing, which is licensing your music for television and film. And so I started hitting it real hard. And at first it was all genres. It was, you know, anything that a director or producer might need. And then I just felt that was not being authentic, and that was not being true. So I wanted to develop more as an artist instead of just that.
Yep, and then eventually leading into this project here, Nephthis. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the themes that help influence you with this album?
Yeah, so we really delved into this during the pandemic. And there was a lot of dying of old ways. So meaning like societally and then personally, and like just people dying. So there was a lot of grief going on societally and for me too. And so some of the themes that came up in this are for sure grief and death, longing, lust, a sense of a real primal element is really involved in this. In the song Down Below, especially, there's just this like throbbing beat. And I sent it to a music supervisor, and the response was, "This is like pure sex." And I was like, oh, well, then that's great. It's like, so I think it's like, I tried to be really honest in the music that was relayed, you know, to those darker emotions and darker things that we feel as human beings.
Yeah, can you talk me through a little bit of the recording process? How did you record this, and you know, everything like that? Where did you record it?
Yeah, so the main producer, engineer on this is Damien Vocal, and he lives in Texas. So he is also a producer for film and television. And he and I have a really strong bond. And so he was doing a majority of the instrumental component. Like I would send him my ideas and visions and maybe reference tracks of like what I was going for in this wheelhouse. He would build a very basic instrumental. And then I would come up with the lyrics and the melody, the songwriting, and send it back to him. And then we would just go back and forth, back and forth. The vocals are all recorded here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I previously, prior to the pandemic, was recording in studios, and during the pandemic, I had to teach myself to do it all. So the vocals are recorded by me. I had to teach myself how to engineer vocals and modify and all that. And honestly, it was probably the best part of the pandemic, was forcing myself to do that, feeling like empowered to do that. And then not just being like, well, I have to go to the studio, and going to the studio costs this much. And so I need to make sure that I have all these songs signed up or aligned to do this. Like, it was more so that I could just do it whenever I felt it.
Whenever you felt motivated.
So like, I feel like the feelings come through a lot more potently because I was doing it when I felt it. So if I felt like horny, or like, I know I shouldn't say that, or whatever, or if I felt, I should pick something other than horny. I pick like, because that's what down below is. Down below is this primal, lustful thing. But if I felt sadness, if I felt like I just needed to express that and be in my own space, and I could do as many takes as I wanted, like in No Stopping Now, then I could do that. I could be in my grief and really express that, instead of being hyper aware of the people around me in a recording studio and trying to, present a certain impression.
It definitely makes it a more personal experience, and probably helps you get through this crappy time we've had with the pandemic as well, being able to go off and make this music and focus on that a little bit, and not so much the outside world, and to learn how to do all this from your own space as well will only help you as a musician and artist going forward with all of this.
Yeah, I agree completely with what you're saying.
Where's the best place people can head along and support you with this album? Chuck in pre-orders, have you this as well?
So I've been doing a lot of pre-saves and that just through Spotify or through DistroKid has like a link that I can provide you with. And that links you to Amazon and Spotify, Apple Music. I also you can find me on Bandcamp. I would say I am on SoundCloud as well, but I use it much less. And my preference would be Spotify, simply because you are going to get more updated and pinged when I put out new music. But
yeah, Spotify is good, but also chuck it up on Bandcamp for us Bandcamp nerds that have to go buy albums as well. You have to do that. I do implore people. It's great to get those Spotify listens up, and it's good to get all those listens. But it's also good when someone goes and buys your album as well. And buys. Are you looking at getting any merch eventually, or anything like that, shirts, or see how the album goes, and then maybe some merch?
I'm really well established with the fine art photography community, meaning like in a past life, not really, but like, years ago, I was really doing that a lot. So there's a lot of imagery of me that would make excellent merchandise. So hopefully down the line, but it has not been my priority.
And you've got the 3 singles out already, which people can go check out, I believe, is over on those streaming platforms. You got Locked Up on This Hill, No Stopping Now, and Sovereign Cry, I believe, are the first 3 singles that have come off the album so far.
Yeah.
And I got to ask, the albums are like songs are like children. They change from week to week, day to day. But have you got a track that really stands out for you as one of your favorites off of this album?
Yeah, for sure. Most recently I've been obsessed with Sovereign Cry, but my tried and true favorite is Locked Up on This Hill. It is probably the most traditional, quote unquote, rock track. If you had to compare them to the others all kind of incorporate some experimental stuff. That one's far more far more normal, but it is, when I wrote that song, there's something inside you that just strikes really differently when you, I feel like when you hit an emotional center, or when you hit something that's just got that wow factor, you just feel it throughout your whole body. And for me, that's what that song did. I don't know how it affects other people. Maybe that's not their favorite at all, you know, but I love that song.
Yeah, it's a great track, amazing track. In fact, the whole album, I put it in, and I hadn't heard of you. Curtis sent this over, and Corin over there, and they're like, I got the email, I went and checked it out after the interview had been lined up, and I was blown away. I was like, wow, what an amazing voice, and I'm sure the listeners are going to feel that as well, and absolutely enjoy this album, Spiral Hollow, which comes out 21st of January. Sheila, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for joining myself, Crank, and That Metal Station for a chat about it all. Do you have any last words, shout outs, or thank yous you'd like to add in there as well?
I mean, thank you so much to C Squared Marketing for promoting me and for sending me over, Curtis. And thank you so much for your time. I really, really value you and your birds.
Yes.
And for listening and for appreciating like the oddity that Nephthys is. We are haunting, and we are dark and twisted and chaotic, and we're not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm really glad that you appreciate it. So thank you.
No, I absolutely love the instrumentation, the sound, everything. Everyone go bloody check it out. Thank you very much for joining me, Sheila. You have a lovely evening.
You too. Bye.
Cheers, mate.